Hey everybody, this is Dennis Schultz. I am the New York City chapter lead for Blacks in Technology. If you're not familiar with Blacks in Technology, we are a national nonprofit advocating for representation of African Americans in technology industry. We'd love to have you join us. If you are in or around New York, you can join the New York City chapter at bitnyc.org. Or you can join one of the other national chapters, visit blacksintechnology.net. So today we're going to be discussing hip hop and technology with Chuck Creekmore from allhiphop.com and the man that goes by one name, Mims.
Yeah.
So do you go by Sean now?
Or you go by for the most part. For the most part, yeah, Sean. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're both my government names, so it doesn't matter.
Either. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So, so I guess we'll start with
Wait, what'd you say, Chuck?
So you got one of those cool names.
I hope so. I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
Now, were you able to register Mims.com?
Nah, never. I could never get a handle that says Mims. They're always gone. I could never. So everything I use, probably I tag with like Mims Life, or all my emails are Mims Life. But yeah, I could never get anything to register with my name.
Yeah, those four-letter domain names. That's kind of tough. So before I jump in, let me let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you started and where you are.
Cool. Chuck, I throw the ball at you, brother.
You got the floor, brother. You got the floor.
My name is Mims, multi-platinum musician, tech entrepreneur now in the tech field, born and raised in New York City. I mean, I wish I had like a bio to read. I would hate doing that, but really, I've had a great tenure as a musician in the music industry. In my earlier years, I guess I would say that. I don't want to call myself old now, but so yeah, I mean, I'm a tech entrepreneur now. And I came from a background of being a musician.
Thanks.
Okay.
Chuck, yourself?
Yeah, man. It's the short story is Chuck Creekmore, founder of allhiphop.com. We are one of the pioneering publishers in the internet space. And I wouldn't necessarily call us a tech company. I would consider us a tech company, but I would not necessarily consider myself a tech entrepreneur. In the future, that's where I'm headed. But we're definitely in the tech space. One of those groups that's had to, one of those companies, I should say, that's had to navigate the changes over many iterations of technology.
Chuck, you are too modest.
Yeah.
I won't date myself by telling you when I came across allhiphop.com, but there was, when I I'm gonna date myself. It's too late. When I graduated, I went to Virginia Tech and graduated in '96.
Okay.
And at that time, Netscape version 1 was out. And it was Alta Vista and WebCrawler were the web browsers. And the hip hop website was Davey D's Hip Hop Corner.
Right.
And then I was like, I appreciate what he did, but when All Hip Hop came, I think that was like a year or two later, I was like, okay, these guys are, because Davey had content, but he didn't have aesthetic. You guys have both. So I appreciate
that. Because Greg and I actually, it's funny you mentioned that period of time, because Greg and I formalized our partnership in '98, but prior to that, we were working together informally because I was the one that not mastered, that's a strong word, but I was on Photoshop early and other things like Illustrator and all the HTML was, like.
Yeah, that was just a plain text editor.
Yeah, so I was partly responsible for looking a little bit better than some of those other sites.
Nice. Yeah, so what I'll do, because like I said, I did want to open up the mics, so I'm going to open up the mics and give everybody the ability to talk.
Okay.
But the first question I wanted to ask was a non-tech related question. So we'll start off easy. Well, easy for me. And you guys can go in any order, but your favorite hip hop artists for all time, and then one from the last 3 years. Somebody current and somebody all time great.
Okay.
Chuck, I'll let you take that first.
Yeah. Oh man. You know what? That's a tough one for the new era. I mean, it's not that tough, but it's a little tough. But for my legacy, I got to go with Jay. I'm gonna go with two. I'm gonna go with Jay and Kool G Rap. Jay, I'm gonna go with three. All right. See, here we go. So yeah, I'll go with Jay and Kool G Rap. But I'm gonna just sprinkle Redman. Just throw Redman out there too. For the new era, I'm definitely going with. There's a lot, man, but and I don't want to go Kendrick Cole. That's too easy. I'm actually gonna go with a young dude. You know what? I'm gonna go with this kid named Jay Grams out of Baltimore. That's who I'm gonna go with. Jay Grams out of Baltimore. He's a blip on the radar right now, but he's actually so dope, and his crew is dope too. So they actually on the way.
All right, yeah, I know a few more rappers, and there's some talent out in Baltimore. All right, man, see you on the spot, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, it's tough because obviously growing up in New York and just being a diehard hip hop fan, there's so many people that influenced me as a hip hop artist. But I would probably have to put Jay-Z atop the list as well of people who had that major influence in understanding how to go from being a musician into different worlds of business. And then for me, new school wise, I'm probably going to be a little biased here and go with the home team. My manager artist by the name of Little Jufu, and he's I guess I wouldn't say his claim to fame, but he was discovered by utilizing certain of the newer platforms like my own and also TikTok and stuff like that. So it's for me, I'm interested in that era because it allows me to see where music is going. So that's why I mentioned Little Jufu.
Okay. Now you both mentioned Jay, and this is a good segue because has his hands in a lot of different ventures, right? But like a lot of successful entertainers, not just rappers, they tend to shy away from technology and invest in technology. I mean, there's Chamillionaire, there's Hammer, who, probably the most notable, but why do you think that is? I mean, is there any reason why they couldn't be early investors in some of these tech startups that, turn into unicorns and have, multi-billion-dollar IPOs?
I think it's simple. It's still a stigma attached to being too tech savvy, in my view. And that I know that might sound a little bit weird, but Jay is pretty brazen. He almost brags about being unfamiliar with technology or the internet or, Instagram even, you know what I mean? So I could be wrong. I could be misstating that. I don't think he's completely ignorant or anything because obviously he has title and that's certainly technology. But I think that, it's foreign to a lot of people and to put yourself out there, it is a different level of understanding and a different level of conversation. You can't really BS your way through it. You know what I mean? And I make no bones about it. I'm not even nearly as tech savvy as I used to be because it's changed so rapidly, and it's changing. In 6 months, it's likely that there'll be something else we're talking about.
Yeah. I guess I'll touch on that point as well. I think even for myself, I think when you have a passion for the creative side of technology, you're more willing to invest. It's almost like music, like being passionate in a record that you take around the country to promote. I think the difference is in my position in particular, I've invested in my ideas and I think the difference is when you have venture capitalists or business managers that say this is a good investment, so let's just throw our money into this VC firm, or maybe you diversify into all these different portfolios and then you'll catch that one unicorn. And I think obviously Chuck understands in building all hip hop that when you're passionate about something, your investment level is way different, and hence that's when you get the Mark Zuckerbergs or the Jeff Bezos, who dedicate pretty much all their time into what they believe in as opposed to what other people believe in.
So let's talk about that then. So how did you pivot from being a rapper to coming up with Creator, and what was that journey like?
My story is actually really, I guess, simple in a way. I was flying to San Francisco. My business partner, who I think is actually online here, I see his name. Me and him were flying out, and I pitched him an idea about some technology, and then it was his idea to go knock on some VC doors, and I remember no one would let us in. You know, I mean, having this successful music career at that time, and you know, being able to throw a name around, it wouldn't even get me in the door, and it wouldn't get me a meeting with some of these big VC firms, and even the ones that took the time to speak kind of laughed at us because we didn't even have an idea mapped out. I mean, it was just an idea. We didn't have you know, anything drawn up, and that made me curious, really to try to figure out how to break down. I don't like being told no, I guess, as I say. So for me, I took that no as you're not allowed in this industry because you know nothing about it. And, you know, started doing my research and been to every, I guess, event you could imagine, try to shake as many hands, no different from the music industry, until I've learned as much as I do now. And I still have a long way to go, but you know, this is where my passion is now.
Yeah. All right. And you ended up winning TechCrunch Disrupt 2017, right? Was it 2017?
2017, yeah.
And that's pretty impressive. So for those of you who don't know TechCrunch, is basically, you know, it's one of the premier showcases of up-and-coming tech talent. And it's very prestigious. You get an award. It's a lot of publicity. And it can launch a company and kind of set them on the right path. So I guess first, what made you go, and I'm assuming you went through the accelerator?
Yeah, so.
Or did you just crash it?
Well, all right, so both actually. So my two business partners, Eric Mendelson and DJ Blackout, Winston Thomas, they were down in Miami, and as they tell me the story, they basically applied to be a part of a pitch competition, a local pitch competition in Miami. And Eric Mendelson prides himself to be like the pitch king. So he got on stage and he won that pitch competition, which allowed us as a company a booth on the showroom floor for TechCrunch New York City. And obviously having a booth on the showroom floor, when they start to vet for Battlefield, they vet a few companies, and then they allow one or two companies off of the actual showroom floor on the spot. And we were actually one of the companies that they allowed in. So I guess the story goes as this: I didn't have a pass to TechCrunch that year. I hope they don't disqualify me now that I mentioned this. So actually,
I'm sure you cashed the check already, so the money's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually had to sneak in. So I snuck in TechCrunch, and I'm basically sitting in the crowd, and then my business partner calls me and says, "Yo, they're inviting us on stage to do a pitch, and you know they don't think we're gonna win, but it's great publicity. So you know you need to actually I was in the parking lot. You need to come in right away." So I snuck in, you know we did the first pitch. We kind of bombed the first pitch because there was a lot of technical difficulties that day, and we still obviously got selected to go to the next round and you know kill the next round. And I didn't imagine that they would call the name of a company. There were a lot of companies up there that had some really great ideas, but when that name was called, it felt like honestly having the #1 record in the world again. Believe it or not.
They don't get more hip hop than crashing the party and taking the bag. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So one more question for you. Then actually this can be for both you and Chuck. As far as short-term and long-term goals. I guess explain what Creator is, and then maybe what the near-term goals in, and where you see yourself in maybe 5 years with the app.
Yeah, so Creator is a mobile studio and a production marketplace in the palm of your hand. So essentially, what it is I wanted to allow anyone, no matter where they were in the world, to be able to utilize their cell phone as a recording studio. And the reason why I am still very passionate about that is because being a musician early in my career, there were a lot of situations where if I didn't have money per se, then I wouldn't be able to get to the next level, the next step. And it took a lot of the fun out of the recording process. Even on the recording side, it's very expensive. So if I got to go in the studio to record music, even nowadays, if I don't own my own studio, I'm paying $100 an hour or $50 to $100 an hour for studio time for a good studio and a good engineer. So I thought it was important just to give the world a utility tool so that they can utilize, from an artist standpoint. And then for me, it serves as artist discovery platform. So I kind of get to see, no matter where you're at in the world, how you're trending and how you're moving up in the rankings via the app. So short-term goal is, and I guess anyone in the tech world would understand this, is basically making sure that the app is 100%, because that's the hardest thing sometimes, is to keep up with current technology. And I guess long-term goal is to build a platform that allows people, no matter race or religion or whatever, the ability to record and not have to worry about spending thousands of dollars doing so.
Nice. Yeah, in talking to you and in preparing for this, I downloaded it, and now I think I'm a producer. So who knows?
Cool.
Yeah, Chuck. I guess what's next for All Hip Hop? I mean, you guys are like the pioneers.
Yeah, I mean, All Hip Hop's definitely about to enter the tech space. We have new partners that we hope to announce sometime this year, and substantially. I can't really speak on it too much, but we're definitely looking to change the game in a whole different manner. So that's more of a partnership. Moving forward, our goal is to also support our content through better technology. Right now, we have a platform. Not to disparage the platform, but just to say that we would like a better platform to properly support our content. So we're about to deep dive into the tech world as it relates to, supporting the content and figuring out different ways to monetize that as well. And, currently, obviously, a lot of this, and it's interesting now because we have to continuously refer back to, some of the other companies that support our content, but more or less staying, the reason why All Hip Hop's still around is because, we never fully built a company on someone else's platform. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So to continue to perfect our platform and our company.
Yeah. And how long have you, well, I think we discussed, you started in 98?
98, yeah.
98, okay. Yeah, no, that's some longevity. That's impressive. And who was the mastermind behind coming up with the concept?
Grouchy Greg, my business partner, initially had, he started All Hip Hop with that domain. I had a different company called Tantrum Magazine, Tantrum Mag, and Tantrum was my content play. Whereas where I was interviewing all the big names of the time, DMX and everyone else that burst out of the hip hop world at that time, the golden era, kind of like the end of the golden era, but it was like a major resurgence. And we're both from Delaware, I might add, so we didn't, I can totally, relate to Mims trying to enter in the tech world because that's how we felt entering into the hip hop world from Delaware. It was just no access, and so we we bum rushed. You know what I mean? We straight bum rushed, and we entered in a disruptive manner. So we have, you know, Greg, I might add, by the way, my business partner, Greg, every time I do something regarding tech, I feel guilty because Greg is he's far more tech savvy than me, but he's like somewhat of a genius in that regard. And so he always kept us super compliant, if you will, technologically.
Yeah, no, it definitely shows the fact that you guys are still, you know, relevant and viable, you know,
Yeah.
where you started. That shows that you've made a few different iterations, you know, of the site in order to, you know, stay.
Listen, let me say this, by the way. You know, we've done a lot. We have taken many, many lumps. You know, we've made a lot of mistakes, man. You know, technology.
You didn't turn into MySpace, though.
Huh?
So you didn't turn into MySpace. You know,
nah, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. That's a different play as well. You know, that's a whole different play. You know, but there's always a big bad. You know what I'm saying? There's always a big bad around the corner. So you got to be ready to fight that off. And I don't think they were prepared to fight off some of, you know, the Facebooks of the world and whatnot. So, yeah, I see Eddie F is here.
Hey man, what's going on, man?
Eddie in the building. Thanks for taking the time, brother.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, man. I think I was on the wrong link for a second.
Oh, okay. No, that's okay. You know, it's all good. We have you now. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just take a second and formally introduce you, or actually I'll let you formally introduce yourself. The way we were doing it was, you know, tell people about who you are, where you started, and where you are now, and how you got there.
Oh man, wow. Okay. DJ Eddie F, Heavy D and the Boys, Uptown Records. We were the first artists on Uptown Records. Long time ago in the galaxy far, far away. 1980, but phew, 6. So we're the first artists on Uptown Records. I was partners with Heavy D and came up under Teddy Riley and Marley Marl. Kind of came in on the leading edge of sampling. Actually, was just kind of coming into effect. That's how I started. What I'm doing now is, ironically, I'm still doing music, and I was always a tech person even before. I was kind of like I was the computer nerd, computer lab high school kid that also loved hip hop and DJ'd when I went home. So I kept doing both of those things. I was a fan of Apple way before it became, you know, popular, like from, you know, when they had the old Apple IIe's and the Mac Classic and all of that. And actually now I'm in Houston, Texas. Nobody knows this, but I've been working in healthcare tech for the last 5 years. And I'm a certified HIPAA compliance officer. I'm in Houston. They have a huge medical healthcare market here. 2 major markets here are oil and gas and healthcare. And I kind of got into healthcare through hip hop and tech. That's actually why they wanted me to work with them, to help them with, you know, branding. And then I also knew the tech side, so I could help them get that stuff together.
Hold up. So how does hip hop help you get into healthcare? I guess I need to know the correlation.
So, all right. So the medical practice that I started as a consultant. Well, long story short, the doctors that owned the medical practice were fans of hip hop.
Okay, I was gonna say they like Heavy D and the Boys.
So one thing led to another, and through the conversations, they found out I did websites, I had a tech background, and I started consulting them. And then because of my executive background, you know, head A&R at LaFace and at Motown, Polygram, I kind of, as I got more and more into their practice, it was running just like a group of record companies. They just had different service lines. They had, dialysis units, they had vascular access center, they had kidney clinics, different, but it was really organized. It felt to me just like when I was at Polygram. It's like, okay, you know, Def Jam specializes in this, and you know, Island specializes in this, and this is, so it was just service lines. So they actually brought me in as a consultant. They asked me to run the whole division. I didn't want to do that because I didn't have a background in healthcare at the time. So I ended up being CTO of the medical group, and I kind of helped them revamp all of their infrastructure, everything from their networks, all their workstations, their voice over IP, their branding, their site-to-site VPN, all that stuff. They kept asking me, can you do this? Can you fix this? Can you do this? And then I just kind of like, you know, it's like, the funny thing is, it's what we do in music. It's what we do in hip hop. We take problems and we solve them. We take, you know, even from scratching, we take things that you're not necessarily supposed to do and figure out how to make it work. So to me, it was just problem solving as you go.
Nice. So I guess for the rest of the panelists, I did want to ask what translates from hip hop into what you do now. And Chuck, this is kind of a gimme for you, but more for Mims, really, I guess, you know, how does hip hop translate into tech, or are there any lessons that you've learned that you brought over to that?
You know what, I would say, because it's funny, I've been obviously in the cryptocurrency for quite some time, blockchain for quite some time as well. And what I like to say is that we talk about rock stars, like the rapper from the 80s into, you know, the 2000s, even to now, is considered the rock star. But now more and more you start to see these tech entrepreneurs pop up on the scene, and these guys are legitimately like rock stars. They move around like rock stars. And I mean, Chuck said something that was I guess key, is, you know, a lot of people in hip hop haven't accepted technology, so to speak, or even from an investment standpoint. But the truth is that, you know, some of the individuals in tech now are honestly partying, becoming the new hip hop artists. They're becoming the new stars. So people are paying more and more attention to the technology space because of that. For me, I mean, that's obviously not what my passion is. I think I'm still more music driven, and I want to solve a problem in my industry. So because of that, it leads me into technology. And because, like Eddie said, I have a passion for it from young. So, you know, when you combine the two, it's a no-brainer.
All right. Chuck, any lessons you've learned that you brought over to you know, to all hip hop? Or, I mean, because you're more media than tech, and I understand that, but it definitely some lessons that can apply.
I mean, look, well, first of all, let me just say, you know, kind of echoing what Eddie F said, you know, I was, you know, you take these things for granted. It's weird, you know, but you take these things for granted, the Apple IIe in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we just had an Apple IIe randomly. And growing up, when I went to college, I went to my school because they had a Mac lab. And I left one school and went to another school largely because they had a Mac lab, you know, and I knew that was associated with publishing. And so a lot of the things, and I have to check my privilege in a lot of ways because I forget, you know, stealing all the programs, excuse me, learning how to steal programs off of those school computers that helped me start my company in all hip hop as well. So I take a lot of stuff for granted at this point. And so my immersion in tech was largely based around other people's products. So kind of where I am right now, where I want to go is where we are the ones creating those products, not just being early adopters to someone else's product. Because as you already know, we blow up. I mean, we have literally, since hip hop's inception, blown up other people's products from day one, and figured out ways to make these things cool, not even their intended purposes. So we have to really get on the ball from a tech standpoint, whether it's getting funding from our own people or others, allies, if you will, or really figuring out how to bootstrap it, because that's where somewhat it's been difficult for all hip hop, because our tech plays and our risk take, the times when we have taken those risks, we may or may not have been fully equipped to handle it or evolve it from, you know, something that we might have bootstrapped. So that's pretty much it. You know, we've learned a lot, you know, and I think we have a lot in the tank, but as we move forward, we want to make sure that the relationships that we have in tech are somehow able to pay dividends for us. You know, we got friends everywhere. So you know, like Mims, you know, again, things that you take for granted. I mean, me and Greg, we go to all types of tech and publisher related conferences. I mean, it's like a no-brainer almost. You know what I mean? But I think breaking through is a different story.
Yeah. And you mentioned funding and access to capital. You know, we can talk offline about some equity crowdfunding plays that might be a way for us to get you some funding if you're looking for it. But yeah, I think the fact that we just need to educate our community more on what's available, and I won't get into the Jobs Act and what that means and how you can invest. But just know that if you want to invest and you're not a credit investor, there are ways to do it, and you can support the companies that you like and you know, patronize. We got about 20 minutes. I'm going to open it up to the audience for some questions. Everybody should have the ability to talk now. If anybody wants to go off mute and ask a question, now's a good time.
Hey, this is William Jackson. I'm down here in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm enjoying the discussion. Really a lot of valuable information. I'm in the area of education. I teach with the school district, but I've been involved in technology for quite a few years. But I want to know, from your opinion, what are some of the strategies that we can apply in our communities to get kids involved in learning how to code and learning how to design and learning how to build web pages and involved in the areas of STEM and STEAM development?
Well, I think the best way is to get them in a program and start young, man. You can never ever start too young. You know, my godson, well, he's not little anymore. He's literally graduating from high school now, which is hilarious. But he's you know, he's been doing AI, artificial intelligence, since he was 10. You know what I mean? So he was doing certain types of little robots and cars and things that responded to voice prompts for years. And so the best way to do it is to make it cool and make it you know, create the atmosphere around the, you know, technology early. My daughter hasn't quite grasped onto it, but you know, she's been in Girls Who Code, I should say, excuse me. Girls Who Code, and Black Girls Rock has an offshoot that's similar as well. So we have to, and also, and the other thing I will say is, you know, finding a safe space for them to do this as well, because other environments can be very hostile and intimidating and daunting for young kids. And you know, yeah, that's my 2 cents. But I mean, now more than ever, we need this, and we need to, if we're going to survive in the world to come, and really the world that's here, we have to really involve our young people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because, you know, being a teacher, I'm sorry, all I see is in the classroom, you know, kids just on programs, you know, to help them read and write, which is good, but there's not concerted efforts within the school system to actually teach them design principles and you know, things that they're going to be, how to think innovative. So I'm just trying to get as many ideas as possible from, you know, people like y'all and that's been in the community that's using technology and touching lives.
It's got to be like English, math, you know, just got to be like everything else. You know, everything else. Gym, just got to be.
Yeah, I think, I was, not to interrupt, Chuck, I think the importance is that is building that cool factor. I think the problem with you know, a lot of, I guess, kids from where I grew up, and even in my time, is that we don't understand the certain career choices. So for me, while I had the opportunity to go to a decorated university, I decided to be a musician, and there's nothing wrong with that because obviously it worked out for me. But you know, I'm not sure the age of your children or the kids in your community, but it's the cool factor. There's innovation in everything. I mean, from video games to you know, web mobile-based apps. I mean, everything that we touch now in life has innovation behind it. And if these kids understand that they can be at the forefront of technology and innovation in the near future, because it doesn't take that long to get in front of it. Mark Zuckerberg was in high school when he created, college when he created Facebook. So it's not, these are not things that are intangible. These are things that they can reach even now. Some kids can code now and create applications that will either increase their finances or increase their brain power.
Okay.
And
one of the things I wanted to add something onto that too. I come from an education family. My mother and father teachers, dad guidance counselor, things like that. But one of the things that I've seen in coding in the last 10, 15 years is one, gamifying things, and then the other thing is whichever age group it is that you're targeting, find out what they like whatever apps they're using. And a lot of times the lead in just leading them in by building a clone of something. Like a lot of people would, if they use like Snapchat all the time, or if they use Instagram, if just selling them on, build an Instagram clone, or, a lot of kids would be interested if they could build their own Instagram, even if it's not as sophisticated as Instagram. But if they thought it was something like that, that might spark their interest. Things that they use. And I see a lot of coding classes teach stuff like that, but they don't necessarily put it out there like that until you get in the class. And then oh, I'm building an Amazon clone. But you could probably just put it out there like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I deconstructed all types of websites to learn coding. I didn't go to school for it at all.
So that kind of dovetails into hip hop too, because hacking is, basically just like jacking a beat. You get that source code, Chuck, before websites got complicated. You copy and paste and chop it up. You figure out, reverse engineer it.
Change the graphics, boom, there you go.
That's it. So thanks for that. Anybody?
Suck down.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I had a sort of boring question, if I may, for the gentleman. And may I thank everybody actually for their very valuable input. Sort of, I'm interested in the legal side of things. I mean, when you are sort of going about your day-to-day work and sort of looking at contracts, what sort of things sort of stand out for you from the legal side of things? Are there things like indemnities or limiting liability? What is something which you really look out for when you're considering the legal side of things?
NDAs.
Okay.
That's what I look at. A lot of people have similar ideas, and I get a lot of NDAs. I give a lot of NDAs, but I find that mutual works best because a lot of people have similar ideas. You believe it or not. That's what I found in the tech space, in the coding space. And it's a little bit of a tricky dance. It's a weird issue. It's hard to balance between protecting an idea and being first to market, and I'm sure, I don't have anywhere near as much experience as like, Chuck and the other guys, but that's just my experience. I'm sure they have way more experience in that realm.
Well, yeah, man. Mims probably knows more about this from a tech perspective, but everything is in paperwork, basically. NDAs, there's contracts, there's all types of things. that you had to sign. I mean, look, I was talking to T.I., and they didn't even want to talk to me anymore because I was talking in so much quote unquote code. Like they were like, all right, just send us the NDA and then so we can talk. You know what I mean? And I mean, I was being very forthcoming, but to them, they wanted the whole shebang. I was just like, nah, I mean, that's my bro. But I mean, come on, when we're talking business, you know how this game is. And if you look at the Facebook story, you know, it's grimy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always protect yourself, and it protects other people too, because you don't want to be in a situation where it's a misunderstanding and up in court. Thanks, Andy. Any other questions?
I got a question for Mims. Well, never mind. Forget that.
No, come on, Chuck.
No,
I was just gonna say music. You know, I'll give you a little clue in. Music is special, so that's a special. You know, there's special legalities attached to that, music-wise. You know, I mean, it's really not a non-question. It's more of a statement to say that I'm sure that what we're doing is you know, you just got to protect yourself on that end as people are creating music on.
Yeah, I mean, so we pride ourselves on original content. So we pride ourselves on the creation of original content. I mean, there's a lot obviously that comes with that. There's a lot of meat and potatoes behind, you know, I mean, we paid a lot of attorneys to figure out how we can navigate in the space, no different than the Spotify's and the Apple Musics, et cetera, but we do pride ourselves on original music content. I know Eric Mendelsohn is on, he can probably give more light as to how we navigate, especially in the world that we're in, but you know, it is a tricky space, so.
So what do you guys think about the verses, the Instagram battles? You know, I hear that, you know, they want to shut it down, you know, royalty and rights management, you know, people looking at, you know, all these millions of people being on and, you know, certain people not getting checks. So any thoughts on that? I mean, is it for the culture or is it for the money? What's it for?
I have tons of thoughts on that. But first of all, they shouldn't shut it down. But they should just monetize it. As soon as, you know, from when D-Nice first did his first club quarantine, I was already thinking, you know, you guys might know people at, you know, Instagram like that, but I don't know them like that. I was like, they should, what's the thing I'm looking for? I was like, yo, they should just Pandora this thing right now. They should just put ads in it in between, or if you want to subscribe, pay a fee and let people and track the songs. You know, they can track the songs enough to cut it off or to say you're copyright infringement on Facebook, so they can track the songs. So track the songs and monetize it and let people go. And that extends into the verses thing. It's the same thing. Just, you know, I'm sure some brand wants to get in front of 200,000, 400,000, you know, live. It's at this point, it's television. It's IG, you know, IGTV. It's TV.
Well, they did have the Ciroc thing with, you know, the Beanie Man. You know, so I mean, I mean, they kind of tried to do it, but you know.
But I mean, they need to. That's why I said they need to Pandora it. Like if it's not, you know, instead of cutting people off, just, you know, a word from our sponsor. And it's a minute of, you know, and then that money goes to the people, whatever the songs, you know, they could track the songs. It's not, put it like this, it's not like they don't have the technology. It's not like they don't have, like, you know, a couple of hundred programmers that could be like, okay, let's track these songs. Let's, you know, and let's pay a portion or whatever, you know. And then if you don't want the ads and you don't want the commercial break, let people pay. And that wouldn't be hard for them to set up. I hope they do it. I hope somebody, if they're not doing it, I hope they do it.
Yeah, I was hoping to see, you know, Revolt or Tidal, you know, step up and take it over. You know, nothing against Instagram, but, you know, That's my 2 cents. You know,
They should, but
Completely different platform though. So
a different platform, different. It will be a different vibe, and some technical challenges, but it could be done.
I think this is an opportunity for them to build their own platform. To be honest with you, I mean, I get that you needed Instagram to be able to start it up and be that engine to it, but now because it's taken on a life of its own, I think it's important for them to create, especially as Black entrepreneurs, so to create their own platform. And I also think that the problems that exist with, I guess the infringement or whatever you may have with music playing is a problem that the music industry has to step up and address. And it's been a problem that's been plaguing the industry for quite some time. I don't think the music industry is innovative enough. And that's why we keep getting into these situations where, we can't play even the music we own, we can't play it on certain platforms. And that's because the music industry never cared about innovation. All they cared about was ripping off artists. And that's still the mind frame they're in. So I think once they get out of that and start to understand that innovation is here, technology is here, it's going to take over, then we'll have a lot easier future as it comes to playing music on some of these apps.
Yeah, and it's unappreciated too. That's the other thing. It's always, and that just goes back to what I was saying earlier. We just have to engage our youth properly. I don't think I'm going to create the next Facebook at this point in my life, and nor do I want to. You know what I mean? But just to say that the people who have no boundaries, and I do believe we all are limitless, but I just think that it starts with the kids.
It does, absolutely. I just wanted to add something to all of what was just said. A couple of things. The music business has always been slow with technology. The second thing is the whole shutdown, the whole, restrictions, it never works. If you look at the history of music versus technology, music loses every time. So it's like, I don't care. Facebook, Instagram, they could cut it off. It's gonna okay, we Napster all over again. It's gonna be somewhere. They're not gonna stop it. They might as well embrace it. But I do want to add something. It's something funny that I just realized this maybe 10 years ago, maybe more than that. Doug Morris did an ad in not an ad, but an interview in I think it was New York Times or somewhere. And he said something, and it just dawned on me. He said, a lot of people think, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not exact quote. He said, a lot of people think with the MP3s and the downloads, like we missed it. He said, it's not that we missed it. We're not technology people. He said, it's like if I take my dog to the vet and my dog is sick and the vet says, okay, come in here and grab a scalpel and start. He's like, I don't know. And it hit me that, oh, snap, we're technology people. We're like music people and DJs and, and artists. And we just the culture, hip hop culture. We've always kind of been into technology and but a lot of these, the executives, the high up, they really don't know. Because for the longest time, I was like, when iTunes and all that came out, and I know iTunes from when it was SoundJam before Apple even bought it and turned it into iTunes. And all this time, I was always thinking, why don't record companies build their own store? Like, this is like, it doesn't take, they spend tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like, it doesn't take that much to, and not build your own store to not have iTunes or to not have these other platforms. Just to be like, to me, it was like, you go to the supermarket, you buy Jif peanut butter, but then they got, whatever supermarket brand, No Frills too. So I felt like, why don't they build it? And they didn't build it because they didn't get it. It's not that they were stupid. They weren't really technology people. And they really didn't know that I could just pay somebody $100,000 to build a store and we could take that money, get that money and still do Apple and all stuff. So I think there's a blind spot there. And I think it's still there with these record companies.
And it's
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, man.
I just wanted to add on a point to that is that the biggest issue is that that old school mind frame of thinking. See, there's two businesses in the music industry.
Yeah.
The business we see is selling music, and then the second business is lawsuits. So we tend to forget that the music industry makes the majority of its money in the courtrooms.
Right.
And that's something that's always going to take place. And it's an old school way of thinking. And like you said, it's always going to be something that comes along and builds a way around it. But, you know, that's how they're making money. That's how they've always made money, whether they're robbing artists or whether they're, you know, trying to fight for
publishers?
royalties. Robbing, yeah, exactly.
Like, man,
So-
like let me just say this. I haven't seen Jimmy Iovine nor Dre since they did the Beats deal. But I said when I see them, not even the Beats, forget the Beats hardware, but this the little streaming company that they bought in, like, do you know how much money streaming basically resuscitated the whole music business? The whole music business. And these guys really don't get credit for like spearheading that, but that little thing, Apple buying that streaming company and turning it into Apple Music, and then, you know, Spotify and streaming, which now streaming is like all the revenue. It's totally turned the whole music business around. But my point is,
all the revenue.
They should have done this
for the music
before
industry.
that. You know what I mean? My point is, what if these guys never did that? What if they didn't have Beats? What if they would still be trying to sell physical products, and they would still be like limping along, trying to still fighting all the companies, like you said, suing everybody.
Mm-hmm. They still suing everybody.
And so there's like, man, there was a point after being at record companies, you know how they have a structure, or had an old structure of, you'll be the head of the label, be like the head of A&R, and at a point it was like the head of promotions. Like those were like kind of like the two big arms. It was the music and getting it on the radio. And I was at a mindset where there needs to be three legs now. It needs to be the music, it needs to be whatever of radio, but there needs to be a whole, like a person that's really that same counterpart as a head of A&R or the head of promotions and marketing. There needs to be a head of technology that's just as important, that's right there at the top level, because these music companies, I feel like they don't know what to do, you know, in terms of innovating and going, you know, they're making money now, but they're making money from streaming and suing. But then now what's next?
Big companies get very complacent when they're making a lot of money, thinking it's not going to change. And then, you know, a young upstart comes and disrupts, you know.
Yep.
Just shut it all down, Uber style. Put everybody out of business.
Yeah.
We are right at 7:30. I did want to, since we started a little bit late, just ask one more question to the panelists, give everybody another opportunity just to speak and have their say. Based on your industry, where you are right now, and talking to someone who will want to get in and be, you know, potentially the next All Hip Hop, or the next Creator app, or the next CTO, what do you tell that young person who wants to get to where you are? And you know, just, you know, any words of advice, or you know, constructive criticism that you could give.
Go ahead, Chuck. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's real simple. Master your zone of wherever you stay. Master that area. Align yourself with people that are smart and intelligent and open-minded. Continue to work with those people. Don't be afraid to be disruptive. Don't be afraid to step on some toes. Respectfully, obviously, but don't be afraid to find your own lane, pioneer. You know, the one thing I'll say, you know, we've been around for so long, you know, it's sometimes it's mind blowing, but when I remember when we first started, you know, Russell Simmons was literally cursing us out because we were sending messages to his two-way pager that was news and information that he at first didn't want to hear. and didn't want to get. Literally, like, hated us. You know, after a while, he said, I want to invest in you. You know what I mean? So my point is don't be afraid. Be fearless. And, you know, the reason why Greg and I work so well together is because he is so extremely tech savvy. And me, you know, I'm an early adopter, and I'm cool with it, and I'm still working my way through that. But, you know, we work together because I'm a bit more on the creative side, and I'm out and about more. And then we connect things in that way. So that's my opinion. You know, no one will know everything, you know, and that's the one thing we failed to really mention about Jay-Z, not so much in a tech capacity, but he's always surrounded himself with really smart people, really smart business people, and people that can sort of tell him what to do. And even on the investment side, if you Google him, he is making strides in tech. Same with people like Nas. So that's what I would say. You know, stay educated, completely immerse yourself in your lane, and then continue to grow with people that are like-minded or complementary to what you're doing.
Good, Chuck. And I'm, you know, shout out to Queensbridge Ventures. You know, Nas, I'm gonna track him down for one of these soon. So, Mims.
I think the word disruptive to me stands out the most. And I think even the path I'm on is to be disruptive in the industry I'm in. I am not a coder, and I wish obviously I need to take the time out to become that. But for anyone out there that's just getting started, I say in this business, I feel like that's where you should start off in coding, and then with an understanding of what you can code, then it trickles into business. And one of the biggest, obviously, mistakes that I think a lot of people make in life is when they actually take their talents and go work for a big corporation. I believe that if you have the ability to code or be creative in that space, the next thing you should learn is the business aspect, which is equity, and building something for yourself. Even if you do decide to take a job with a big corporation, which is fine, you should always stay passionate about what you want to create, and align yourself with people to have that passion become visible. And I think that if you can do that, then you'll disrupt. For anyone that has the same skin color as myself, it's a lot harder, obviously, because the VCs don't open up to give us that big check that we always want. Which is why I know, Dennis, you mentioned crowdfunding. I think that's one of my next steps, is to get into that world, not only to raise funds, but to allow other people who are non-accredited the opportunity to invest in companies that they can't. So a lot of this stuff to me leads into being disruptive. And as long as you can stay on that path, not everyone will get in the door, but if one of us does, then that's, to me, those numbers, start to increase and increase. So.
All right. So just a quick note before I pass to Eddie. Mims, we should definitely talk after this. But
for sure.
If anybody has a side hustle and they want to take that to the next level and they don't know how to build an app, that's what we're for, our organization, Blacks in Technology. So definitely seek us out. I mean, it's a bunch of Black nerds waiting to build and make stuff. So don't let the fact that you don't know stop you from, being that next Mark Zuckerberg. All right. Eddie, any advice for you?
Well, on that note, what you just said, I need to talk to everybody on this panel. I need to talk to after. That's the first thing. The second thing is just to kind of add on to what Mims was saying. I think that if you want to, I think I tell this to all my friends. I'm like, it's cool to have a job, it's cool to work, but let that be the fuel to whatever your passion is, whatever you're trying to build, don't get stuck. Like even if you have to do that to bridge to get to whatever your dream is or whatever you're trying to build for yourself or your company or your project or whatever it is, let that, fuel that. The other thing is, I would just say, just learn is, again, extension of what he was saying about coding. Learn as much as you can about the, the tools of what it is the passion of what you want to follow. Just try and learn as much of it about it as you can. And then, there's a lot of things that we do at least from the hip hop generation, I've seen, you know, whether it's music, whether it's creating our own fashion, our own jeans, you know, there's a lot of things. A lot of times you could take something that's already out there, but it's not addressing a specific need that kind of like speaks to either, you know, your culture, your, you know, your ethnicity, your, you know, your neighborhood, your what, and you, a lot of times you can take that and say, hey, you know, nobody's making, you know, Levi's been making jeans forever, but they weren't making, you know, jeans that, you know, fit us the way we wanted them to fit us. You know, we had to get a certain style or whatever. So then to have a line of whether it was, you know, cross colors or then, you know, Sean John or Rockaware or whatever, and then people made millions of dollars because just filled the void of a need. That goes for you know, all hip hop, you know, just servicing us. There's hundreds of millions of people. There's hundreds of millions of fans of culture, hip hop culture, you know, whatever it is, whatever the interest is. And I'm using hip hop as an example, but you know, there's a lot of things out here that have been kind of like redone and reworked and remixed or redone for a new generation. Shoot, even Instagram has the Polaroid, you know, kind of logo. It's the digital version of, you know, of Polaroid, you know. So I would just say, to just kind of wrap all that up, find a passion, follow the passion, and most importantly, don't give up. Because a lot of the Puffs, the Jay-Z's, you know, Beyonce was in a group that got dropped from a label, then got a new deal. You know, Alicia Keys is a lot of the superstars had super failures before they became big. So you gotta be persistent. And I'm sure, you know, I don't know, I got on a call late, so I don't know if anybody talked about the trials and tribulations of the business, but you know, it's not all success. There's the grind. So just grind through and be focused.
Thanks, Eddie. Yeah, and there's so many resources available, a lot of them free. If you want to learn, you can learn. It's just, you know, it's no limit now. Well, the limitations now are a lot less than they were, you know, a decade or two ago. So, yeah, and there's no excuses, really. If you got a idea, you know, something you want to remix, put your own swag to it, try it. You know, you might actually make some money. So,
yeah. And I don't know what everyone I don't know what everyone does on in the chat room, but I know there's enough people on here to start up the next Instagram per se. So I mean, the platforms like this is what we need as well, to be able to connect the dots and build in the future as well. So thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you. And thank everyone for joining. I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions for any of the panelists, I'll be sending out a follow-up email after the event. You can reach back out to me. I can get it to them, and we can keep the conversations going. But thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you on the next one, and have a good rest of the evening.
Salute.
Yeah.
Thank you.